giving up on yourself, which sounds kind of funny. Sometimes we think giving up on ourselves means like throwing in the towel. We're not going to do anything at all, end of life, like the worst possible thing, giving up on yourself, right? But really, I want you guys to think about giving up on yourself more from like a complacency place. Are you complacent? Have you become complacent with the life you are living currently? Are you completely satisfied? Like he said in there, are you satisfied with where your life's at right now? Whether it's in your profession, your marriage, your relationships, yourself, the relationship with yourself, how you see yourself, your success, your finances, your parenthood. Are you satisfied or are you complacent? There's a big, big difference there. Some people will make themselves believe that, you know what? I'm satisfied. And that doesn't sound very convincing, right? But when you're like, man, I lived the best life I could possibly live. I am satisfied. It's a completely different thing. So there's complacency and there's being your absolute best. Coming to end of life and saying, wow, I lived it to the fullest. I saw my highest potential and I did the work to reach that person. I did the work. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Have you given up on yourself? Have you become complacent? Or are you unsatisfied still and willing to do the work? Right? What work are we talking about? First, your belief in yourself. Who do you see yourself as? What is the vision of yourself? How do you see yourself end of life? What success have you seen in all areas of life that are important to you? Right? That's what I call satisfied. So how do we do the work to get there? Again, belief in yourself. Start to work on the belief in yourself. Expanding your vision daily, daily, changing our habits. If we're going to do the work, we must do the work. And the work isn't just thinking about it and hoping about it and almost wishing about it, but then saying, "Oh, but I'm so busy. I got a lot going on. I'm tired. There's not enough time in the day." And having all of those excuses come up that then lead to complacency. I think I'm fine where I'm at because I'm just going to make enough excuses to feel like I don't have time to do the work, right? What is the work? Daily mental work. First, it's got to be mental. Making time, whether it's in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, all one, whatever it is that works for you, but you fit it in there. Sitting in deep thought and visualization daily. Sitting in it. Creating the environment for you to have 10 minutes. We're not talking an hour. No, we're not saying like you got to dedicate this huge time block. No, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes. If you want to start breaking it up a little bit more, sitting in deep thought and visualization. Visualization is a practice, just like meditation is a practice. We're not going to be good at it right away. Sometimes some of us have some ADHD issues and we start getting distracted by our own thoughts. But you got to practice. Practice that. It's not going to come easy for most people. It doesn't come easy for me. When I start to try to sit and meditate or visualize and sit in deep thought about one specific thing, which is like the vision, 50 billion other things will come to mind. Like, I got to do this today. Oh my God, I got to make a note. And next thing you know, you're not visualizing anything except what your day looks like or what yesterday looked like. So you got to practice this. This is a muscle building technique. You got to practice that. When those thoughts come in, grab them. Nope, I can't think about that right now. If I forget about it, too bad. I got to get back to visualization, sitting in deep thought about this one thing. Give yourself 5 minutes a day or 10 minutes a day, but dedicate that 5 to 10 minutes to just that thing. And that will build the muscle for you of visualization and vision creating. Okay. Then you got to sit in prayer. For me, we're spiritual people. For some people, they might not be spiritual. Whatever it is, sit in it. Sit in your spirituality. To me, when I sit in prayer, I talking to God. I start with what I'm thankful with, and then I go into what I need. First, God, thank you for everything I'm thankful with, and I bum. That helps me build my gratitude, which helps us physically. Scientifically, it helps us physically. So boom, gratitude, all the things I'm grateful for. And then I go in with my asks, my needs. God, I need this, I need this, I need this, I need this. Can you provide this? Can you, and that's what he's for, right? That's what the universe is for. We ask, we shall receive. We don't ask, we shall not receive, right? So you must ask. You got to put it out there daily, asking. And then you got to sit and listen, receive. A lot of times we forget that part. I forget that part. I'm so busy praying. God, I'm so stressed. Praying. And then amen. And then I completely forget to listen. And that's a huge part of prayer and spirituality, is listening and receiving and sitting in that and waiting, right? Give it 3 minutes, give it 4 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever you can give it. But listen and receive daily. These are practices daily. Watch what you are listening to and watching. This is also work. Remember in the beginning, we said this is work. This is not going to be like fun stuff, probably. Self-development for me was a long journey of like 10 years just of me fighting it. I don't want to do this. I want to go watch a crime show. I don't want to watch a sermon or a webinar right now. I want to go watch something that entertains me more, right? This is the work. It's not always fun, but it creates the right habits, and it allows us to give ourselves the time necessary to increase our mental capacity and our mental development. It's work. It's what it comes down to. It's just work. So you got to watch what you're listening to. Put on a sermon, every other day. This doesn't have to be like every single day. Sometimes when we try to put on too much change and too much things that we're not really used to, then we do it for 2 weeks and then that's it. We stop. We go back to our norm. So baby steps in these areas. Maybe put on sermon twice a week, a podcast twice a week of an area that you're interested in or you think you would like to learn more about. Find a podcast in that area. Find a good book that's positive and that's helping you in different areas of your life. You want to get better at your marriage? Go listen to a marriage podcast. Grab a book on marriage and listen to it on Audible while you're driving, right? That could take 3 weeks when we're getting in the car for 20 minutes at a time. But hey, it's going to take 3 weeks. In those 20 minutes, you are serving your mind and your spirit with positive things that is reinforcing this work. And it's compounding. So instead of music, maybe a podcast or a book on Audible, or maybe when you're cooking or cleaning around the house, maybe you have an AirPod in and you're listening to it. This is the work. Yes, we want to watch a show and do other things, but if you take the time and try to calculate it up of how much time you take currently scrolling or watching a show on Netflix or Prime or something like that, where you can just take 30 minutes of that time that you're already taking watching the entertaining stuff, just take 30 minutes of that and put it towards something educational or that serves you better than just entertainment, right? That's the work. No, baby, she's there. Sorry. Right? When you are scrolling, if you're a social media person, what are you allowing to come into your mind and spirit? because everything that comes into our mind is going to affect the rest of our body, your spirit, your soul, everything, which then also affects you physically. Sometimes you get stressed. You might watch something that makes you anxious, makes you scared, makes you uncertain, makes you envious, makes you jealous, makes you not feel good about yourself, makes your comparison complex come up. So are you protecting yourself from what you are receiving? Right? Sometimes I'll see stuff on my social media and I'm like, ooh, that I don't like that video. And I'll not interested. You got to actually go in there, mark it, not interested. I sometimes will even report something that I think is completely far and inappropriate or, violent or something like that, because our kids are also watching these things eventually. And it's damaging to your mind and spirit. You may not know it right then and there, but you are absorbing it and it is seeping in. Scientifically, it is seeping in. So we got to really work hard to protect our mind and our spirit, what we are seeing, our eyes and our ears, everything seeps in there and goes right into the body. So you've got to get like serious about protecting it. As serious as you are, the people with kids, how serious are you about what they watch? Right? Like there's no way. I'm like a hawk at what Zamina watches and listens and hears, whether it's on TV, on a phone, on an iPad, in the room, right? Between conversations on the phone, I'm like a hawk at what she's hearing and seeing. As much as you want to protect your child, that's how much you should be wanting to protect your own self, right? When you're in an airplane, you put your mask on first, right? Then you could put your child's mask on. So if you're protecting what they're watching and listening to, because you know that's important, that's going to affect their development, you've got to do the same thing for yourself. You have not stopped developing. We don't just stop developing because we're not children anymore. We're adults. We're going to continue to develop based on what we're watching and seeing for the rest of our life, right? So you've got to be a hawk about what you are allowing in, right? And also choosing, making the right decisions of dedicating time to watching also the hard stuff, the right stuff, the educational stuff, taking that 30 minutes away from Netflix and pour it into that, right? Being an advocate for yourself, fighting for yourself. This is not giving up. This is what creates the bigger gap between us and complacency, right? It's the work. It's all this in between work that will serve us towards not becoming complacent and unsatisfied, right? Just taking what life has given us and our circumstances have given us and, calling it a day, calling it a life, right? Having the right circle around you. This is very, very important. We are the sum of the 5 or 6 people that we're around regularly. We're the average of that, right? So if we're the average of the 5 to 6 people that are around us or that we listen to on a regular basis, how do you feel about that currently? And if you don't feel like that is expanding you and really pushing you and challenging you to that higher self, then that means you've got to do the work of start to change some of those people, some of those voices, right? Friends, different categories of people, friends, the friends that you have, not that you, if you feel like you need to go higher, that doesn't mean I can't have these friends anymore. No, that just means time. You are prioritizing your time differently with people. That is all that means, right? Professional people. Are you seeking out professional mentorship in whatever professional area you want to be in your career? If you're in entrepreneurship, if whatever it is, are you seeking out leadership, or are you just waiting for it to just happen to fall in your lap? Or maybe you get a good manager, maybe you don't, maybe you have a good manager and you hardly talk to them outside of like your normal duties. You've never been like, hey, can I take you out to lunch and like pick your brain about leadership? Or, would you want to spend a little bit more time with me? I'd love to grow more. I'd love to, just be a better professional me. I value you as a person, and I think you're a great leader. I would love to spend more time with you if you're willing. Are you seeking that out? Right? It's work. It's not just going to naturally come. It's actually work. Right? Or are you complacent in that area? Sometimes if we ask ourselves the right questions, we'll come up with a different answer than if we're asking another question that's similar and then it gives it this answer. Sometimes the right question gives you the better answer. Are you complacent in that area? Might be a better question than are you seeking out leadership? Right? Maybe it's the tougher question. Are you complacent in that area? Right? Spiritual mentors. You can ask yourself the same question here. Are you complacent in this area? Or are you actively seeking out spiritual mentors? If you go to church, are you actively seeking out people whose level of faith is something you admire? You know, and you would love to learn how they've created such an intimate relationship with God that you would like to also have one day, right? Are you seeking it out or are you complacent in that area? Right? Volunteer work. I love doing volunteer work. I try to take Zamina out with me as much as possible to include her in when I go volunteer. Next month, we're going to go down to Camp Hill and we're going to make little activity stuff, little fun DIY stuff for kids who have cancer. And then in February, we're going to be able to give them that gift that we made, both me and her, and we're going to be able to see them and meet them. And I think that's going to be life-changing for Zamina. Groundbreaking. She's going to see something she's never really seen before up close. And I think that's going to change her as a person. It's probably going to make her feel more grateful for what she has, her health, right? Volunteer work can change, just like it's going to be groundbreaking for her and it's going to change her. It's going to do the same for you. It's amazing. The feeling you get when you volunteer and you help and you serve. On Tuesdays when we go and we serve food to the community here in Hazleton. And every time I do it, it's crazy. I've done it numerous times. And every single time I do it, I'm like washed all over again with like gratitude and like, wow, like just the sense of like life is so amazing and I've done something good. And that also changes you physically, your health, your spirit, your dopamine will release all over your body and you become healthier. It's crazy, but it's true. So volunteer work, are you actively prioritizing time for things like that instead of maybe some of the things that are not serving you as much, right? That's the work. Marriage mentors. If you're trying to get better in your marriage, maybe everything is good in your marriage and there's another level, but everything is so good that like, but are you still seeking more? Or are you complacent in that area? When you start to go around, if you guys have the time, if you want to dedicate the time after this, start to go around in the different areas of your life that are very, very important and fundamental to you and your future self. Where when you pass away, you're like, I'm so satisfied. I have no regrets. And write down all those areas. And then ask that question in each of those areas. Am I complacent here? Or can I actively go do more work to get better here? Right? To challenge myself, to stretch myself, to expand myself here. Right? Family. Are you complacent in your family, with your family? There was a study that showed a huge majority of people's highest life regret was the negative relationships they had with their family members and that they'd always wished it was different. Right? And this is a hard one. It's a thin line between, are we going to continue to save people and save this relationship, even though it's toxic? Or, hey, is this worth salvaging? And do I believe this? We can make it better and we can heal from this and we can become better. right? Is it not that toxic that I can't fight for it, right? Because if we become too complacent for it, and then end of life comes and our siblings start to pass away, our parents start to pass away, are we going to be full of regret for the things we didn't say, for the life we didn't take advantage of together, for the relationship we didn't have, but we ideated constantly in our hearts, right? If you're feeling any of those things, are you doing the work to get those areas better? Or are you complacent? Right? And complacency is just like sitting in time, like the guy said in the beginning of the video. It's like slow, steadfast, just letting time go by. And then in the end, you're flooded with regret. It's just the time in between, you know? Family. So are you willing to put the time it takes, the conversations it'll take, the hard conversations, the boundaries, the love, the forgiveness, the letting go? Are you willing to do that work and fight for those relationships so you don't feel complacent in those areas, even though you want more? You know you want more. And that's what we mean about not giving up. If you know you want more in these areas and you're just waiting and not doing the work towards it, and you're just kind of wishing and hoping, then you're complacent. That's what that means. You're complacent. You're accepting the circumstances in those areas, and you're not putting in the work to get better and get away from the complacency. Now, lastly, execution. This is more work. First, it's like the mental work. That's like the first part. That's the prerequisite and the ongoing requisite, but the prerequisite and ongoing. Then it's execution, executing on all of these things, right? What are your actionable steps? What is the vision overall, whether it's success, financial success, professional success, marriage success, parenthood success, family relationship success, how people visualize me, see me in life success, legacy, whatever it is in these areas that you've chosen that are important to you. Now, what are the actionable steps to get to that final outcome? And those are the steps we have to put into place, right? Outside of just those mental steps. What are you watching? Prayer time, meditation time, visualization time, your circle, all of those things. Now it's like the actual physical work steps, right? Your habits. Are you waking up earlier and going to bed later and not saying you're tired, right? Are you changing your schedule around? Are you giving the right things the right amount of time? Are you, I have a picture that I sent to our team yesterday, and this is in our office. It says it says entrepreneur, a person who is up late working 100 hours for themselves to avoid working 40 hours for someone else. And that doesn't have to be just for the entrepreneur. That can be for you in these areas. Are you up working 100 hours in making these areas of your life better? Or are you complacent with the 40 hours you're putting into work? And then I come home and then I got to make dinner. And then I watch some TV for 2 hours. And then I'm scrolling at night until 11:30 or 12. And then I fall asleep with my phone on TikTok. And, or are you like, no, I'm not doing TikTok at all tonight. I'm going to put on a podcast, fall asleep to that. No, I'm not doing Netflix. We're going to put on a sermon on YouTube and put it on the TV, right? Those are the actionable steps. If it's in your profession, no, I'm not gonna call myself tired. I still have from 8 o'clock to 11 o'clock to make some late night calls, do some marketing ideas, get on social media, right? If it's in your spiritual stuff, are you spending those hours, those actionable steps on it, right? So that quote or that fact, because it's so true. As an entrepreneur, if you're going to be a successful entrepreneur, you are going to have to spend minimum 80, 90 hours on your business, especially in the beginning. It's minimum, like it's just a fact. I could tell you from experience, it's a fact. You spend so much time on your business to make it successful. You now just take that same idea, that same fact, and put it into this: not giving up on yourself, not being complacent in life, in these important areas of your life. My marriage, my this, my that. Marriage, I could tell you an example right now. And we struggle with this. Marriage is one of those things for me. It's a huge thing. At the end of my life, I want to be able to say I was the best wife. I had the best husband. We had the best relationship. We went so deep. There was not an area we did not struggle through and overcome and become better for it. And we passed down all the values, all the principles, like of marriage to our daughter. We were best friends. All the things that make a successful marriage to you, that's what's important to me. So at night, sometimes I'll take Zamina to bed at 10 and I'll fall asleep when I'm putting her to sleep. And that's really hard for me because I'm not a late night owl. I like to go to bed around 10:30, 11, right? So it's work for me because Chris goes to bed at like 12:30. He stays up. He's a night owl. It's work for me to choose to stay up from 10 o'clock after I put Zamina to bed to at least 11 or 11:30 with my husband so we can talk. We can talk about the day. We can talk about us. We could talk about whatever it is he wants to talk about because he's a quality time guy, right? And that alone will make my marriage better. That alone, that work, that hour and a half that I would choose, that over going to sleep, which that's hard. And I can tell you, I struggle with it. A lot of times I go to sleep, right? But when I don't go to sleep and I do stay up with him, our marriage is that much better. And it's those little things, actionable steps, habits, hard things that will get you to that place of non-complacency, right? Not giving up on yourself, right? Giving up is not like, oh, throwing in the towel, everything's horrible, death. No, giving up can also mean being complacent, right? So I hope that served you guys. Sorry, I went 2 minutes over, but I hope that served you. And I hope you guys have a really wonderful rest of the week. And I challenge you to do that. Get all those areas that are very important to you, write them down and ask yourself that question. Am I complacent in this area? And if you are complacent, what is the work that you can do to not continue to be complacent? All right, everybody have a wonderful week. Bye.